Welcome, welcome, welcome to the Sports Card Lessons Podcast. With me, your host, Ken. I'm a retired teacher documenting my story here on the pod, finding teachable moments to share with all of you along the way. Don't forget to hit me up on Instagram at sportscard_lessons. Hit that follow button. You can also watch these episodes on the Sports Card Lessons YouTube channel. Welcome, everyone. How is everyone doing? Whether you're watching on YouTube or listening to the podcast, please hit the subscribe button and leave some feedback. Happy New Year. Welcome 2023. When I listened back last week's episode, I think I said that way too many times, and my apologies. Even I was getting tired of hearing 2023. So I'm going to limit. This is it. Everything else now is just a new year. Starting off this first show already. First weekend into the new year. First show. I'm excited for it. Saturday, January 7th, the New England Card Show at the Mass Mutual Center in Springfield, Mass. I'm excited. I'm excited to get out there and see everybody. It's been a while since I've done a show up this end of the state in Connecticut or Massachusetts. The last few shows I did, November, December, were all in New Jersey, New York. I did the Terrytown show. So it's going to be nice. It's just a different crowd of people. Some of the same people you see at both shows, but then it's a different crowd of people. When I think of the shows, I think the people I'm going to see, and I'm definitely excited. I'm excited to get out there. I do have to say, when I started my 2 weeks off from the hobby in preparation for my move, preparing to move, and the move itself, initially I had FOMO. I had serious FOMO. When I taped episode, I always say tape, when I recorded episode 50, that night when I was done, I tore my office down, took all the cards out of the case behind me and put it in the Zion box and broke everything down, the computer, the ring light, the speaker, everything, the microphone, and packed it all up. And I have to say, after I did that, I could feel it. I could feel it in me that I had FOMO. Like it didn't even start yet. I just had finished that last episode 50, and I packed stuff up, and I was almost like, "What are you doing? Take it back out of the box, set it back up. How can you put this away?" Right? And this computer here I use for for responding to everything. Like it's easier for me. I know I can do it on my phone, but I find it easier when I'm responding to people's comments on YouTube and things like that. I find it easier just to sit down and type them out on a computer than to try to do it on the phone. So closing that up and putting that computer away, I knew I was literally taking myself out of the hobby for a few weeks. And I had some serious FOMO. It was strange just packing everything up, packing all my slabs up, putting them in a case, putting them in a box, taping up that box. And if you moved, you know what I mean. Not only did I have FOMO, but I seriously missed my cards. When you're in the hobby, and if you're anything like me, you see these cards are somewhere close to you that you see every day. And there were no cards. Every one of my cards, including my singles boxes, everything was packed up. That whole office was packed up. Did not have one card to look at. I missed my cards. And not only did I miss my cards, but after I missed my cards, I worried about my cards. I'm like, did I mark that box? Do I know where that box is? I don't want that box to be on the bottom. I want it to be stacked up top. What happens if, there was a flood? Just like all these silly worryable things. And these were, these are like things you would worry about. I'm older. My kids were younger. I mean, you're worried about certain things, but now I'm older. I mean, it's these cards are like a part of me now. And yeah, I was a little worried for them. Um, Before last week's episode, uh, which was my first episode of season 2, I went, when we moved in and I talked about my office now is still not ready. But we had another room that a lot of those boxes went in because there's a lot of construction going on. There's painting going on, a lot of things are happening. But I went and I labeled the box so I know I could find the box. And I went in, I found the box, and I pulled out my Zion case, and I thumbed through my cards. And one of the reasons I did that at the time I did was I had purchased online Alexander Ovechkin card, a nice autographed PSA graded, a nice card. I'll share. I don't have the card here to share with you. But I waited like 3 or 4 weeks for that card to show up, and it was a card that I thought was going to show up earlier than it did. And it just took long. It had to come from Canada, and it had to go through customs and get across the border and all that stuff. So it took a while to get here. But then the card showed up, and I had the one card that is a beautiful card. I had this beautiful card show up, and I kept moving it around. I have it on my desk. I put it over here. I put it over there because it wasn't in a case. And then I started thinking to myself, man, something bad could happen to this card. I better get this card and put it in the case. And so I went and I busted out my case, and by the time that card showed up, it was, almost 3 weeks of the hobby break. And honestly, I didn't realize how much I needed a little hobby vacation. And I'm going to call it the hobby vacation. Stepping away for that time just allowed me to refocus on my collection, on my hobby direction, just me and the hobby moving forward. And I talked about this on my episode last week, and there were a lot of things building up to the end of the season that I said, okay, season 2, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that, I'm going to do all these things. And I really felt it was important to talk about, my changes in the hobby, but those all came because I was able just to take a step back and really think about, the new year, getting into the new year with the hobby, and where the hobby is, where it was, how it's changed, and where I saw myself in the hobby. Changing directions of what I'm going to be PCing, what I'm going to be putting in my cases. I mean, that's kind of a big deal. And if you listen to the, season 1, in a lot of those episodes, I talked about moving in a certain direction of what I was doing. And I think if I didn't move, if I didn't take the time off, if I didn't have this little hobby vacation and just get a chance just to step back and just reevaluate everything, I don't think I would be talking about this right now. I think my season 1 episode would have been a much different episode. I think you would have heard me talking about big cards that I want to go out and acquire. So I just think it was so important to take this hobby vacation. I mean, so important. I felt recharged. I felt as excited as I did when I jumped back into the hobby, thinking of my new direction, the new cards I wanted to get. Now, I'd been purchasing cards all along the way, and I think subconsciously, purchasing the hockey and purchasing the music cards, and purchasing the Pop Century cards, I think subconsciously I knew that I was going to be changing a direction of it's really hard to explain. And if you're in the hobby, you know this. So you go out, you go to a show, and certain cards you look at, you're like, wow, this is great. And sometimes you don't even know why you're buying certain cards. I don't know if that's happened to you. That happens to me. I see a card and I'm like, I got to have this card. I don't know why I need to have this card, but I have to have this card. And sometimes the writing's right there on the wall, but you don't read it. You see it every day and you just don't read it. And I think that's what was happening with me. I'd find myself more and more buying cards because I liked the cards and they made me feel good. But my mindset wasn't about changing my direction in the hobby. And I think taking that time off really allowed me to reassess what I was doing and really think about where the enjoyment was coming in the hobby. Um, I know for me in the hobby, it's people first and foremost. It's the friends I've made in the hobby. Those over everything, over these cards, over everything else. The friends I've made in the hobby has been, just huge, so important to me. Um, I love connecting with the people at the shows, connecting with them online, connecting through social media. Before I jump back into the hobby, uh, I would check my Facebook maybe once a day. I didn't have an Instagram account. I wasn't part of any Facebook. Well, I probably was part of a couple Facebook groups, but nothing like the hobby groups. And how much has changed and the people that I've met. I talk to more people now daily than I ever have in my life, and it's all through this hobby. So, first and foremost is the people in here, and then it's the cards, and then it's what makes you feel good, right? What keeps you here? What drives you? What gets you excited? The one thing I was happy to see returning from my little hobby vacation, getting ready for the show this weekend, was some of my card prices had rebounded. I was a little excited about that. I was coming into this expecting that I was going to be repricing my cards even lower than what they were in the last show that I did in early December. And when I pulled them out and I started looking up comps, some of the prices have gone up on the cards, and I was excited about that. Mahomes, Allen, Brady, even Trevor Lawrence and Justin Fields. I mean, so their price, I mean, not huge, nothing earth shattering, but the prices have gone up, and I'm happy to see that. I mean, I have investments in these things, and, you're getting ready for a show and you have to put cards in the cases. And I've talked on many episodes, I don't want to be that guy that the current comp on a card is $500, but I paid $800 for it. So I'm going to put a $900, $850 price tag on it in my case and hope for the best. Cause I just know that card is just going to sit in that case and no one's ever going to buy it. And if it's a card that I absolutely love, then I don't care, right? Cause then I don't want people to buy it anyways. Moving forward, I do have, some Ovechkin cards that I'm going to be putting in my case. And it's not that I don't want to collect them, but there's some bigger cards that I would like, maybe move some of the smaller ones and move into a bigger card. But I'm not letting them go. And I shouldn't even have this conversation because every Ovechkin card I bought, the prices are way up on him right now. So I'm excited about that. But I'm willing to sell a few to move up. There's some higher end ones that I'm interested in. And everybody knows in the hobby, this is what you do. You sell some and buy some. It's what makes you feel good. But even the football, the football, we're getting down to the end of the season now. We have one more week of regular season play, and then we're into the playoffs. So for some of these prices on the football cards, I know last year this time of year, I mean, football, it was Burrow, I think, was the only price that had really jumped up. And I know Brady's prices were up last year, but it was only a handful of people. Maybe that's it this year too. I've revamped my collection a little bit, that, buying some high-end prospects and hope that their prices are going to jump up in the playoffs, especially this year, where that the prices have gone down so much I couldn't even see them getting back to their even close to their highs at any point. And then there's those cards that went down, right? And who dropped even further than they were. Zach Wilson, Davis Mills, Mac Jones. Yeah, maybe not Mac Jones. I think Mac Jones is maybe, from where he was last summer to where he tanked to. I think he's probably holding about the same price. He's not rock bottom like Zach Wilson is, who's been benched, right? And these were hard lessons. I go through my case and I have Zach Wilson. I have a bunch of Zach Wilson. I have a bunch of Mac Jones. These were hard lessons for me. I mean, they were good lessons. They were good, hard lessons for me to learn. I may look back at this past year, on these prospecting cards and be thankful that things went as bad as they did. And I know you might laugh at that. You might think that's funny, but I'm dead serious when I say that. I mean, it could be worse. I could have done well with some of them and then really started investing and then really taken a turn for the worst after a year or two of doing this. I'm glad in my first year I've learned some hard lessons. I'm not losing my shirt by any means, right? So they're good, hard lessons to learn, and then you move forward from them, right? I'm glad I learned these lessons in year one with these prospects. Prospecting, and you all know this, I've talked about this, prospecting has many rabbit holes, and I went down most of them in the last year and a half. Really, from buying into breaks, from ripping wax, just even buying and trading up into, prospecting cards, rookie quarterbacks, things like that. So I've gone down a few of the rabbit holes, and I learned lessons. The one saving grace I have is, and I shouldn't even say the saving grace, because I think this is what I was trying to say earlier about learning this lesson early. I talked about getting into one of the early breaks and getting Mahomes on card auto number to 10, which I still never gotten that card. I'm still waiting for Panini to send this card, and I call them every few months and they say no, he hasn't come in to sign the cards yet. I can't imagine that it's been over 2 years and Patrick Mahomes has never been to Panini to sign a card, but I guess it's true, because I don't have my card and nobody else is selling that card either. But hitting this early, right? Hitting this card early kept me in those breaks for a long time. And I don't think if I didn't hit that card early, I probably wouldn't have stayed in the breaks as long as I did. But we will wait for this card to show up, and I will treasure it when it does. Even ripping the wax. I talked about, people asked about, hey, where's the best way to get wax online and from retail stores? And it was part of one of my episodes where I talked about where to go, what to watch, what to do, and all that is null right now. There's like these people that had these YouTube channels that were set up Wednesday mornings and telling you where giving you links for Target and Walmart and all. I mean, they're not even on anymore. No, I can go walk into a Target and a Walmart right now, and there's going to be a ton of wax on the shelf. Nobody's even buying this stuff anymore. I think people bought this. People clean these places out just to make money. To go to Target, buy the boxes at 30 and sell them for 50 or 60. I mean, this was the thing. And then what happened was nobody was buying it anymore. People were getting stuck with this, and they're like, well, why bother? Why bother going and getting this and taking a chance of getting stuck with it? Now these boxes just sit on the shelves. Every time I go into a store now, I'll see, football and baseball and Pokemon, where I used to go to there, and these shelves would be just empty, just cleaned out. And, they would stock on Wednesday at 9:20 or 9:15 a.m. and by 10 o'clock or 9:45, the shelves would be completely empty. So I know I wasn't the only one going down all these rabbit holes, right? And I commend some people in the hobby that I felt I was making good deals with, but they knew it was time to move certain players before I did. Some players I took a little hit. Some players I was able to get out of or trade out of pretty quickly. But that's the hobby, right? That's the business of the hobby, knowing when to get in and when to get out. And I think it's a lot like a stock market, right? I mean, I think the difference in the stock market is, your stocks are investments. Stocks aren't a hobby. I mean, they could be to somebody, but stocks are an investment. And I know a lot of people look at this hobby as an investment, but at the end of the day, it's a hobby. And there are those who know in the stock market when to get in and when to get out. And there are those in the hobby who know when to get in and get out. And I hope to be one of those guys someday. I think it's going to take a lot of years of practice, but hopefully I'll figure it out along the way too. This year, my first goal of the year, these first couple shows, is to try to liquidate some of these prospecting cards that I have. There is a number of cards that I've recently purchased that won't go in, that will be showcase cards, but it's just not the right time of year to put them in. There'll be cards I'm going to hold on to, to put in my cases that shows down the road in future, like spring into summer. But, there's a number of these cards that I just think it's time to move. So that's my goal. And I've kind of separated, going through my slabs, and just separated the ones that they're going to end up on the discount these next couple shows, and hopefully to liquidate them out. And take that money to reinvest into, other cards that are, I could say non-prospecting cards, I could say non-sports cards, whatever I decide, but something that's just going to be a better decision, money well spent. And it's like anything else that we do in this world. We just learn lessons. And as long as we can learn from them and keep moving forward, they were great lessons. They were good lessons to learn. My Wolfpack group is already talking about national. There's already, I mean, here it is, the very beginning of the year. I'm recording this on January 3rd, and already conversations about national this year. And my mindset, with my showcases, I'm going to be preparing all year for the hobby's biggest event, right? In the hobby, the biggest event in the hobby is national. So everything I do starting now, even starting, my mindset really started in November, is preparing for this at these shows, finding the right product for the national. So making these sales at all these shows is really just a preparation. Now I've been through this all last year. So I pretty much know, and I know the hobby's a little different right now. I understand that, but I pretty much know, I think the cards are the same, but the prices are different. So what I've been through in this last year, I've got my notes. I know what I'm looking for. I know what I'm doing. And starting this year, I'll execute, right? And I've been executing. And I think a lot of this is just going to be a buildup to prepare for national. Speaking of the Wolfpack, shout out to them and our newest members. That's some new members in the Wolfpack. Cousin Oz and Cousin Tony from Cousins Collectibles Podcast. Welcome. Shane Norton, Sports Card Nobody Podcast. Welcome. And Carmine at Carmine's Cards, who's co-hosting the Crosstown Cardboard Podcast with our man Craig, New York City Sports Cards. So welcome to Carmine. And also just our current member, Dave, DJ Sports Cards, 86. And my brother in the hobby, Rob, Sports Card Therapist. Can't get through an episode without mentioning him. The pack is growing. It's exciting. It's exciting to, that's something that was put together to bring some people together to help each other in the hobby. And it's something that's really taken on a life of its own. And it's just unbelievable to see where it was and where it's going, and where it's going to be. Definitely some great things in store for the Wolfpack this next year and years to come. So I'm looking forward to that. I'm also looking forward to the show this weekend, the New England Card Show. So if you are in the area, if you're at the show, come by and see me, say hello, let's chat. It's this Saturday at the Mass Mutual Center in Springfield, Mass. The only other show I have planned right now is White Plains show at the Westchester Marriott. Going to be down there with my guy John from Behind the Diamonds, set up with him at the that is January 14th and 15th. And this weekend the setup, it's the Springfield show, right? So it's a lot of the local people around here, which I'm really looking forward to seeing. That I tried to, with my moving and things that were going on in November and December, it just seemed like the local shows that I was trying to get out to a local show, and just my dates would not match up that I could get out. So there's a good number of people that I've been messaging with that are, like, man, I hope I see you soon. And I'm really looking forward to that. Gonna be set up there with my guy Rob, Sports Card Therapist, collecting some content for next week's episode. And that's it. That's all I have for you this week. So again, The Office is not completed, so there'll just be one episode next week. It is half painted now. It will be painted tomorrow, and I'm hoping by the beginning of next week, the electrician will put the lights and the outlets in, and I will be good to go. But next week will just be one episode, and hopefully after that, moving forward, it'll be 2 a week. I want to thank everyone for tuning in. And if you like what you hear, please definitely subscribe. And most importantly, tell a friend and spread the word. And until next time, take care of yourselves and everyone around you.